Hi, this is Megha Joshi, the host of the Boardroom Zen podcast. This show is created for the ambitious business leaders. Are you someone wanting to play big? Want to possess a strong brand and executive presence that makes you belong in every room you walk into? And all of this without putting your personal life on hold? If the answer to those questions is yes, then you are in the right place. In this show, I sit down with best-in-class leaders to distill their wisdom while sharing what helped me stand out as a Fortune 100 executive. So let's get started. Many of you overachievers on this call are probably wondering how the rest of the year is going to pan out. You probably have some lofty goals that you want to achieve. It could be a big promotion that you're eyeing for. Or it could be a new role within the same organization or outside that you're seeking that aligns with your career aspirations. Or it could be something else. But whatever it is, I promise you that the framework that I shared with you today, it's a very simple 3-step framework. It will allow you to be more strategic, more intentional about whatever that is that you're looking to achieve. And essentially, the goal is to stop having you feel like you're being kicked around like a can. And so I'm going to teach you how to be more strategic about it. And this is not some theory. These are the strategies that I have applied and refined over the years in my life. So with that, I hope you're ready and you're as excited as I am. So first and foremost, I'd like to take you on my own personal journey back to a time years ago. It feels like eternity when I had just become a brand new director within a Fortune 100 company. I was just brought in from the outside to help with the integration efforts as part of this mega acquisition that this company had made. It was the largest in the realm of cable. So here I was coming in guns blazing as a brand new director. I always thought of myself as an overachiever. So I came in, I was trying to move the needle on all sides, all projects that were in my portfolio, I was trying to move them along. Having said that, very soon it dawned upon me that I was struggling. The markers around me were telling me that I wasn't doing too well. And there were things happening where I felt like I was being run over by the louder voices in the room, especially on projects and initiatives that I was leading as a director. But for many different reasons, whether it was the technical mumbo jumbo and the jargon that people around me were speaking, I was not able to interpret and speak their language. And that was working to my detriment. And so things were brewing for me as a director, and I was wondering how the next 6 months or year was going to pan out for me. In fact, I was worried about thriving in that role. To be honest, I didn't even know if I would survive that role in the next 6 months. And so what truly broke my back was this one large meeting that I was running. And this is a big meeting where decisions were to be made collectively on whether this big initiative was going to go live in the next few weeks. And sadly, as I led that meeting, again, I was being crushed by all the players. I could not stand my ground, and I saw myself crumbling in those moments. So fast forward, the meeting ended. Everybody on the conference call dropped off. The folks in the conference room left the room. And here I was, left to convey my failure to my seniors, to my boss. And I was shaking right there in that conference room. I'd never experienced that kind of pressure or feeling before. I always thought I was an overachiever. But having said that, in that moment, I gazed out of the window. And trust me, I had tears rolling down my eyes. I never let anybody see it. But in me, I was breaking inside. And I just didn't know if I was going to continue in that role, if I could even make it through. But whatever dawned upon me in that moment, an inner voice spoke to me and said, "You got this. You can figure this out. You've done this before. You could do it again. Solve this problem differently. Don't apply the same ways that aren't working here. And so in that moment, I started to brainstorm, what could I do? How could I differentiate myself? How can I position myself for success? And I continued to think. And as I went back home, I reached out to a few of my mentors. I texted them, called them, and I started to seek their advice on how I could reposition myself for success in that moment. And with that, as time went by, I was deploying new strategies. I was trying new things and repositioning myself. And fast forward, the strategy that became more and more clear for me is what I'm going to share with you. And it's really over the years of my corporate trajectory that I have refined this methodology, the 3-step process of how I designed my climb. And I'm going to share that with you. And being able to apply that strategy within a span of 1 year, I was promoted to a senior director. And then within 2 years, I was promoted to be a vice president in this large organization where I was running a team of over 100 employees across 4 states. So I know it's doable. I have been able to replicate this for my own self multiple times. And that's exactly what I want to share with you today. But here we go. So the very first step in this process is called slow down, okay? And as counterintuitive as it may sound, you may say, Megha, I'm in the middle of this chaos. Why would you ask me to slow down? I need to move fast and accomplish things. But my friends, the reality is in those moments, you really have to breathe and you have to slow down so you can think strategically as opposed to just doing. We as humans have this propensity to continuously take action. We just want to have movement. And what that does is we're moving, but there's no real action because we are spreading ourselves in so many different directions. So the first step is slow down, breathe, start being as opposed to just doing. And what I'm alluding to is you as a leader need to start amping up your self-awareness. You have to be very aware of what your environment is. Who are the players that you are working with? Assessing the landscape is key. And then once you figure out where you are, what game you're playing, then next you need to figure out where you are, the path you've taken so far, what's working, what's not working, and where do you need to go so you can course correct and pivot for success. And so with that, the few things I'll share with you is it's very important for us as leaders when we slow down to take stock of our inventory. And when I say inventory, I mean 2 key things. One is, what are our superpowers? What are you doing really, really well? Are you playing to your strengths? If you are good at something, why aren't you playing that to your strength? So knowing your superpowers is very important. And number 2 is really recognizing what are your pitfalls? What are those opportunities? Breathe, think about what your superpowers are and what you need to focus on to get to your goals that you have set out for yourself. And one of my favorite strategy professors at the Ohio State University used to say that sometimes in life, we have to slow down to speed up. Otherwise, we continue to speed, but we don't know where we're going. We don't even have the direction set, and which is why slowing down is so imperative. So that's the first step that I suggest you think about in the context of your goals. Now let's move to step number 2. Step number 2 is double down. Now that you have clarity on where you need to go and what your goals are, you need to go all in and immerse yourself in it. You have to do the damn thing. Just by speculating or strategizing, things don't come to us. We have to build our plan and then go all in. The most important piece I will share within this step of doubling down is that you need to know exactly the things that you need to double down on. And all of you must have heard the 80-20 rule, which basically says 80% of our success comes from 20% of the things we take on. So, putting that in perspective, we don't have to make every single project we touch uber successful. But what we do have to find out is what are those heavy hitting items or projects or initiatives or things that we need to nail and ace, because they are the ones there where we get the biggest bang for our efforts. They are value loaded initiatives. So think about it. What are they? And once you know, go all in. There is no shortcut there. And so the third step here that I will share with you is to be able to tell your story. Now that you have slowed down, you have doubled down, and you're doing all the hard work, you need to be able to tell your story and market yourself. And I can't tell you how many leaders I've met in the course of my trajectory as an executive myself and now as an executive coach that are stuck in their tracks. They cannot move beyond where they are because they don't know how to tell their story. They don't know how to brand themselves. And that works to their detriment, because if you are stuck in that position and you cannot articulate your strengths and the value you're bringing and all the great stuff your team is doing, nobody knows. You are a genius that nobody knows about. You're a best kept secret. And so you got to really think about, how are you telling your story? And which is why I talk a lot about personal branding. And so as you think about telling your story, there's 3 things I encourage you to think about. First is, as you're telling your story, who needs to know that story? And trust me, it isn't just your direct leader. It isn't just your manager. Yes, they are playing a big role in the puzzle, but there's way many more people in the ecosystem that need to know your story. So figure out who they are. And then once you know who they are, then you need to think about why they need to know your story, because that's important. Why are you even reaching out to them? Why are you even sharing what you've got? Think about that. So it allows you to frame a more powerful conversation with them. And the third thing I encourage you to think about is what? What are you going to tell them? As you tell your story, what is your story? Right? So think about the messaging, the context, and how you're going to build that rapport and be able to tell your story. In summary, as I wrap these 3 strategies up, it's really those 3. It is not rocket science. It is as simple as that. And you could literally take that methodology and apply it to any goal you have in your life. It is so powerful and it works. So to recap, the 3 strategies are, number 1, slow down, breathe, raise your awareness. Number 2, double down on what matters. Don't spread yourself thin. And number 3, tell your story. Tell your story, brand yourself, talk to the people that need to know, and craft your message powerfully. You are your own storyteller, which is why it's so important for us to frame who we are and communicate that message. And so I hope you found that meaningful. I have applied this strategy time and again. It has worked wonders for me, and it now continues to work wonders for leaders that I work with, that I coach. So thank you again for joining, and I wish you a lot of success and power. There is no better time than now to stop playing small and tap into your zone of genius. With a Boardroom Zen executive coach by your side, experience the game-changing transformation, both internally and externally. Find out more on boardroomzen.com. And thank you for listening to my show. It means so much to me. I'd love for you to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite listening platform. More power to you, and hope to see you soon.